Dear students, welcome to Sia's digital classes. So today let us learn the concept of types of errors. So how the types of errors will be and how the definition goes on, let us check it out. So we have two types of errors. We'll call it as type 1 error and type 2 error. So let us check it out. What are they? So first one, type 1 error. So type 1 error arises when it involves rejection of null hypothesis when it is true. So here in this unit we'll always try to learn how null alternate hypothesis goes on, and after doing taking the data and obtaining its values and all, we'll try to accept or reject null hypothesis, right? So types of errors arises when wrongly will handle the data or wrong answers will project. So there arises errors. So two types of errors. First one is rejecting null hypothesis when it is true is type 1 error. So what happens is, actually null hypothesis is true means correct answers we got, or null hypothesis is correct over there, but somehow we have done that error and we have rejected that particular null hypothesis, that data we have rejected. So such type, it's an error, right? Good data we have rejected, or like one product we have approved, it's a good one, but we have rejected that, we are not accepting that. So obviously it's a error. So we call that error as type 1 error. So rejecting null hypothesis when it is true is your type 1 error. Now how the formula goes on, that also let us check it out. So reject H naught when it is true, rejecting a correct hypothesis. Yes, correct hypothesis it was, but we have rejected it, so we call it as type 1 error. So that is probability of reject H naught when it is true. Probability in probabilities will represent. So probability of rejecting H naught when it is true, or we can rewrite it as probability of reject H naught given H naught, means whenever the correct value will have, we'll write as given H naught. So given H naught means H naught is true. Symbolically we'll write like that. So which is equal to alpha. Alpha is the notation for type 1 error. So alpha is a critical region, and we'll consider it as a type 1 error. So notation for type 1 error is alpha, and then one more notation also we can write, probability of type 1 error is equal to alpha. So like this also we can write the notation, or probability we can represent in this way also. So this is your type 1 error, that is rejecting a null hypothesis when it is true. Now let us go for type 2 error. What is that? How that error will arise? Let us check it out. So it involves acceptance of null hypothesis when it is false. Yes, here wrong data, wrong hypothesis we have, but we are accepting that. So that is also error, right? So rejecting a good data when it is a error, obviously accepting a bad data, or accepting a wrong product, or accepting a wrong null hypothesis is also an error. So that becomes a type 2 error here. So for that only two types errors will get. So accepting a null hypothesis when it is false is your type 2 error, and actually it should be rejected, but we are accepting it, so we call it as type 2 error. So accept H naught when it is wrong, that is accepting a wrong hypothesis is your type 2 error. So now let us check it out how the formula goes on. Therefore probability of accept H naught when it is wrong, yes, accepting H naught it is wrong, and then we can write it as probability of accept H naught given H1. As said, given means whenever the value is correct we'll write over there. So here instead of H naught I have wrote H1, because the correct one we have to write under given. So accept H naught, but given H1, H1 is correct. What we have to do? We have to accept H1, right? But what I have done, I have accepted H naught when H1 is true. So in this way also we can represent that one probability. So which is equal to beta. Beta becomes a notation for type 2 error, alpha for type 1, beta for type 2. So we have considered here beta for type 2. So in this way also we can represent a type 2 error, and one more, probability of type 2 error is equal to beta. So yes, type 2 error is beta notation. So in this way also we can write type 2 error So this what is your type 1 and type 2 errors are about. So type 1 is null hypothesis. When it is true, we are rejecting, is type 1. Type 2 is we are accepting null hypothesis when it is false. So that is your type 2. So two types of errors we have. You can define some examples also, if at all they'll ask in exam. Give some applications or examples for type 1, type 2. You can derive one example under null and alternative. Take one example and give like medicine. If you consider medicine is good for null hypothesis, opposite is alternative, medicine is bad. That example you can consider here. So actually medicine is good, we have under null hypothesis, that is it's a good hypothesis, correct hypothesis I've got, but I'm rejecting that one. So like that you can give the examples also, if at all they are asking. So type 1, type 2 errors are, these are the type 1 and type 2 errors, and they have one more name also. Let us check it out that also. The size of type 1 and type 2 errors are also called as producer's risk and consumer's risk. So type 1 error will call as producer's risk, type 2 error will call as consumer's risk also. So these are the other names for type 1 and type 2 errors. So this what is your concept of type 1 and type 2 errors. Hope you have understood these concept of types of errors. See you all in the next session. Thank you.